What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. I'm Drew Dinkmeyer here with Mike Gallagher to walk you through tonight's 8-game slate. And I do the little counting there. Was losing track of time and day at this point in the NBA season. A lot of injuries, as always, the case this time of the NBA year. With me to talk through it, as always, Mike Gallagher. Mike, how you doing?
Doing all right. After tonight, every team will have hit 20 games, so we're pretty much at the quarter mark for everybody. So excited for that. And yeah, interesting. NBA Cup next week should be fun. Nice, steady amount of games, except for Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday is going to be brutal. It's. I mean, the 10 plus Sunday games are just so bad. But let's get into the slate today. Let's start with Dallas and Washington. On the Dallas side of things, no major injuries here. They're still without Najee Marshall due to illness. They don't have any listings to Kyrie or Luka, so that appears good here. What are your notes on Dallas?
Yeah, just the incredible win they had to sneak in the NBA Cup. You and I talked about on the pod. I think it was 26 free throws in the fourth quarter. But yeah, Clay should start again. I had that 20-minute cap on him that they stuck with as they started him basically for each quarter. So would expect that to come up a little bit, but not much. Playing through plantar fasciitis, something that's probably not going away for a bit. So I would expect him to remain on that cap, not that 20 cap, but a cap for quite a bit overall. Spencer Dinwiddie's been great. Had a couple huge shots down the stretch to help them get enough point differential that they could have needed had things not broke their way. And then PJ playing a ton. Derek Lively comes back from an injury and plays 32 minutes, one of his best games of the season in a tough matchup. So yeah, pretty much locked and loaded here with this rotation. Still without Najee Marshall, as I mentioned, with the bench being Spencer Dinwiddie in the lead. Gafford will get a revenge game against the Wizards. Maxi Kleba and Quentin Grimes pretty much firmly their 9-man right now.
Yeah, and the Klay Thompson minutes expectations, kind of the one note to kind of follow here in terms of where they go. To me, it looked like they were aiming for 4 6-minute stints is what it looked like they were aiming for at the start of each quarter is kind of how the rotation laid out. He didn't get there in part because in the third quarter, the first few minutes went terribly and they subbed him off. And then the fourth quarter, they went fine for 2 minutes, but then it was like, hey, we got to get our main guys in here. We're down. We're trying to win we're trying to qualify. So I kind of think that we might get the 24 tonight, like a little bit more controlled environment against Washington. But I don't think we're getting much more than that. And I think it's going to be a little bit of a build with Clay dealing with the plantar fasciitis. Okay. Washington side of things, they have questionable tags on Malcolm Brogdon, who showed up with right knee soreness, missed the second half of last game after playing really heavy first half minutes. They were without Corey Kispert and Kyle Kuzma and Keyshawn George. Kispert and Keyshawn George both turned their ankles in this game, so they'll be out for a little bit with ankle sprains, and Kuzma remains out. So Washington getting a little bit thinner. What are your expectations tonight?
Yeah, really thin. Losing a lot of wing depth with Keyshawn George and Corey Kispert. It doesn't sound serious. It sounded like Keyshawn George's was a little bit worse based on the commentary from Brian Keefe. But yeah, I mean, they're real thin and they almost have to go big. We saw some Rashawn Holmes minutes. There was some commentary from Brian Keefe that he kind of stayed ready. So wouldn't be surprised to see Alex Sarr play like pretty heavy at the 4 just because they're missing so many of their wings. And then Brogdon, as you noted, played way too much early on here, which they've done. This has happened to Brogdon. I feel that the Blazers did it, and we were like, whoa, why is he playing so much? He's just going to get hurt, and he gets hurt. So we saw them run that like kind of soft 26 cap. They might just go back to that after they probably screwed up. You can't play Malcolm Brogdon that many minutes, almost cold. So expect him to be capped if he can go, not like hard capped, but expect him to not shoot for like mid 30s like we saw him pacing for in the last game. And everything else is mostly the same. We'll see, Jared Butler play probably some decent minutes. Bub Carrington should run a little bit more overlap. There wasn't too much overlap with him in Poole, but that'll have to happen now just because they're missing so much wing depth. We'll probably see Johnny Davis play a little bit. And then if Brogdon can't go, those guys would play even more. And I would expect Bub to regain his starting spot if Brogdon can't go.
All right, let's move to Denver and Cleveland. On the Denver side of things, Aaron Gordon listed probable with the right calf strain. we thought they might be bringing him along slowly because the first game off the bench, second game was really full minutes for Aaron Gordon in a starter's role. It was, the Emirates NBA Cup, so maybe that influenced things here. But right back on the injury report with the probable calf strain. What are your notes on Aaron Gordon?
Yeah, just the Nuggets do this. Returning from a big injury, gets a P tag. He should be good, as you noted. Big jump from I believe 24 to 33 in the starting lineup there, and he was playing mid 30s minutes pretty consistently. He was playing more minutes per game, partly because their bench isn't as reliable, losing some depth in KCP. So he could be fuller, but expecting to be in that 33, 35 range if things kind of break right for him. Minutes, non-blowout, foul, et cetera, et cetera. And then, pretty tight on the back end with, almost an 8-man, Peyton Watson, Russell Westbrook, and Julian Straw. They're kind of being their 8-man group right now. And then, their defense, kind of stepped up at times. They were playing real poorly. Michael Malone was like, hey, we were dead last over a 5-game stretch prior to this one. But they're back on track now that they've got Aaron Gordon back and, they're not playing non-rotation-y kind of players. They're in an okay spot here.
It'll be interesting to see if they continue with this tighter rotation that's been like 8-man-ish, essentially. You got 5 Zeke Naji minutes in there against the Cleveland team that's like very big, right? And if that impacts how Cleveland chooses to play as well here, because when Denver gets away from Saric or from DeAndre Jordan at the center spot, it's Aaron Gordon as the backup center in a lot of those minutes without Jokic off the floor. It'll be interesting to see if that means we end up getting into more of the one big lineups for Cleveland tonight. But on the Cleveland side, Ty Jerome is questionable with an illness. He missed the last game. They're still without Max Strus, Amani Bates, JT Thor, and Luke Travers, the G Leaguers. What are your expectations on Ty Jerome tonight?
Yeah, illness, don't have a great read on it, but they don't really need him, so we'll see if he can kind of get back. They're getting a lot of depth back. We'll see when Max Strus can make it back, but they had Dean Wade back, and their defense was kind of struggling a bit. It was still okay, but it wasn't as good as it was earlier in this year, and I think Dean Wade coming back could help that. So if they have him back and they have Ty Jerome back, we'll see what happens. Maybe Sam Merrill gets squeezed a little bit. Maybe Karras can't play upper 20s. All that good stuff. And as you kind of noted there, big game, right? Denver's obviously one of the best teams in the NBA, despite how they haven't shown so far. But Denver's kind of healthy, and they're coming off a nice comeback win there. So we could see some elevated minutes. Should note Donovan Mitchell hurt his shoulder last game, and Kenny Atkinson said he was surprised he could put him back in the game because it did look kind of bad. We were kind of tilting in slack that Donovan had been hurt and he was going to miss time, but good to go. Darius Garland also took another scary hit to the head. Looked like he may be out and getting concussion checked, but nope, all good to go. So could see some elevated minutes, not a back-to-back for either team. So this is, probably one of my favorite games of the night. Always, I love the Cavs. Obviously, we love watching Joker.
Yeah, Donovan Mitchell had some good advice for the rest of the league, which is maybe you should not run through screens on Jonas Valanciunas. He said maybe that's a guy that I shouldn't be doing that on going forward. Charlotte and New York on the Charlotte side, still no LaMelo Ball, no Miles Bridges, no Trey Mann, no Grant Williams. We saw the return of Mark Williams last game, limited minutes there. That's the expectation kind of going forward. We also saw Nick Richards play really, really well last game. What are your expectations for how Charlotte lines up? Oh, and then we saw, KJ Simpson kind of surpass Vasilij Micic in the second half, end up taking a much bigger part of the role there. So what are your notes here on the Hornets? Do you think we'll see any shakeup in the starting lineup tonight?
No, I think that Nick Richards will stick in there. I don't think they're going to start KJ Simpson. I think they kind of like Micic as kind of the table setter early. And I think they're comfortable with, they kind of only have they don't really want Brandon Miller to have a big defensive role. So the question is, do you trust the other guys to guard? Do you want another defender out there? If the answer is yes, then you start KJ Simpson, which would probably put him on Brunson right off the bat, and then they'd use Green as a wing defender. But I could see them kind of mixing it up. So I think Micic starts, but I wouldn't be shocked if KJ Simpson, who kind of closed the last game and really got talked up. Charles Lee said he was a quote threat on offense and was bringing a lot of plays on defense. He had a couple really nice plays even before this kind of breakout ishy kind of game. It's pretty close. I wouldn't be surprised considering the spread that KJ out minutes Micic. So that's an interesting thing that we'll talk about for sure on the DFS show later. Other than that, Mark Williams returned, highly limited. That's going to continue. This guy can't stay on the court. Probably going to be a bit before he's playing 20 again. So it'll be Nick Richards starting, holding down the minutes. It's a three-way split it with him and Musa Diabate there. But yeah, keep an eye out for Micic possibly not starting, but would be pretty surprised if things change in the front court with it being Nick, Mark, Musa in that order.
2 questions on that front court. Thinking long term. Long term, 2-way split, 3-way split.
Should be 2, right? Despite Diabate being a fun story, but we've got a pretty good sample of him not really being an NBA caliber player for the most part. But bad props to playing well for this chunk of the season.
I think so as well. And I don't think he has enough offensive range to really play the 4 very much. So I think that would probably be it. And then long term, who's the starter here?
That's a good question. I mean, if Mark Williams could prove he could play 15 games where he could play 25 minutes, then Mark. If he can't, and I don't know if he can, then it's probably Nick. So I think that they look at Devin Vassell, right? Devin Vassell doesn't have nearly the track record that Mark Williams does, and they're still bringing Vassell off the bench. So I think that they're going to probably steal something out of them where we've got to see sustained health from Mark to put him in the starting lineup.
Yeah, I think Nick has also played really well early in the season. Yeah. Maybe earned what we thought, if they're both healthy and functioning, it's maybe a 26, 20, 22, depending on if they could have small ball minutes type thing with Mark Williams being the lead. I think it might be more if Mark Williams proves himself enough, it might be 24-24, just because I think Nick Richards has played kind of well enough at this point to kind of earn that role. Nick's side of things, new listing for Precious Achiuwa, questionable left hamstring strain. The Knicks have been playing super shorthanded all year long because of the injuries to Precious Achiuwa and Mitchell Robinson. Robinson's still out for a while. Cameron Payne also questionable here with the left elbow effusion. What are your notes on the potential return for Precious Achiuwa, and will it come with Cam Payne and more of a fuller bench unit, or are we still kind of subbing out 8-man for 8-man?
Yeah, so let's talk about Precious first. He's been doing, quote, pretty much everything since, I believe, the 28th of last month. So he's been pretty full for, week and a half, 2 weeks. And he's been out for, almost a month and a half now. Would expect him to be limited a little bit. Has he done enough to take minutes, ice Jericho Sims, who's been pretty good. Jericho Sims certainly not a guy who's deserves to lose minutes, but Precious was clearly ahead. We talked about how they were going to run him as one of their core main guys to start the year with him and Deuce McBride before he went down. And also worth noting, he played a lot of 4 in the preseason too. So can that squeeze some of these guys? Maybe you don't see 38 out of Josh Hart and those guys as much. So that's something to keep in mind. But we know he's going to be limited for now. We'll see. I feel he's going to be a game time decision according to the Knicks beats. But considering they sent some G League guys down and Daddier going down, Daddier's in Westchester now. You'd think that's a pretty clear sign that Precious is in there. Yeah, don't have a great read on Cam. Probably going to lose. Decent chance he loses that overlap stuff that was kind of getting him to the mid-teens. I think that could go away now that they've got Precious back to fill some front court minutes. And as I said, trickle down a little bit if they do play him at the 4-some.
Is Sims' role threatened in these situations, or do you think that they just kind of need an extra body, and so play Precious at a backup 4, Sims at a backup 5, and hey, now we have 9 bodies we can mess around with? Or do you think Sims' role is vulnerable?
Yeah, that's the question. I kind of think he's in trouble. I think Precious is just more of a 5. We've seen that, over his career, Miami, Toronto, and the Knicks, he's more of a 5. So, yeah, I think that there's probably a 60% chance that Sims kind of goes away, excluding garbage time.
Okay. Oklahoma City and Toronto. On the Oklahoma City side of things, injury report's fairly static here, but I noticed no Alex Caruso. So it looks like we might get the return of Alex Caruso tonight. He's been kind of managed limited minutes kind of throughout the season. Would expect that to continue to be the case. No Dylan Jones, no Nikola Topic, no Jalen Williams, the big, no Chet Holmgren, no Alex Dukas, no Yushman Jang. So what are your notes here? Who does Caruso's return potentially impact for the Thunder?
Yeah, Dylan Jones was a guy who was kind of benefiting. As you noted, he's in the G League now, so he's obviously going away. But just to give some background, he had a hip injury that he suffered kind of early November, cost him a week, came back, played a couple games, and then hurt it again on the 20th. So this is an aggravation here. probably going to be pretty limited. We saw him, touch mid-20s, but I think that 20s almost off the table. They don't want him to get hurt again. He's a guy who's been routinely injured. We would always, take unders on him just with some extra oomph, because he would always go to the locker room. So yeah, I think they capped him pretty good. Cason Wallace has been playing a ton of minutes, so we'll see if his minutes could come down a little bit. You would think they are just introducing someone who is somewhat like for a defensive role, adding another on-ball defender. Obviously, Caruso does play a lot of center defensively, which does that change now? Do you re-bucket Caruso's role? Because the last time we saw him, Hartenstein wasn't really playing, so they may reclassify his role as more of a post defender to more of an on-ball guy. So that's something we'll be watching later today. And then also, it just takes away from Aaron Wiggins, Joe, just takes minutes out of the kitty. And I don't think it's going to come from anyone really in particular. That's kind of how Mark Daigneault rolls. He'll just kind of figure it out as he goes. So I think Cason's done enough to continue to start. So it should be Caruso off the bench. That's been pretty much a sticking point since the preseason. And then the other note, Lou Dort has been playing through a finger injury, and they taped it a different way to kind of get him to be okay. And he says he's playing through it and it's bothering him. So just to note that. And other than that, they're obviously in a big spot. Dort homecoming game, SGA homecoming game, north of the border.
On the Toronto side, Bruce Brown's still out with a return to competition reconditioning tag. Emmanuel quickly still out with the partial UCL tear. Kelly Olynyk's still out with the back lumbar strain. Jamison Battle out as a G Leaguer. He joins DJ Carton and Ulrich Chomsky as other G Leaguers that are out. And then they've got questionable tags on Grady Dick and Jakob Poeltl. Dick with the left calf contusion, Jakob Poeltl with the illness. What are your expectations on Toronto tonight?
Yeah, pretty clear indication that Grady Dick is going to play. We saw him get the Q tag last game after a light practice, and they've kind of always said that he was going to be back in the next 5 games. As you noted, not only is Battle out, their G League guys, Mogbo, Walter, and Shed they all just finished playing. They just finished a G League game that was a G League record for crowd size. Almost 20,000 people watched the 905 Raptors destroy the Greensboro Swarm. I wish I could have been there. Those guys, that game was played in Scotiabank, so there's no travel. They should be good to go. Much like with the Cavs, they kind of played the double dip there. So we could see despite not being listed with Shed, Walter, and Mogbo, who could start to kind of transition. Jakob Poeltl, that late illness tag is always a really, really bad sign. Do they go small? I don't think they do. I kind of lean they start Bruno just because I think they want to have a bigger body out there for Hartenstein, but they could go small. We see teams go small routinely, so we could see Mogbo kind of start. Wouldn't be totally shocked reintroducing Grady Dick and then running small ball Scotty stuff. I don't think so, even with the way OKC plays. So I think if Poeltl can't go, it's kind of Bruno, Bobo, and then small ball would be the next risk after that. I expect these guys to come back. I think Walter could play today, but they may just keep him out. Davion Mitchell's minutes could be severely cut. They do want to play Jacoby Walter overall. No Battle. Definitely a pretty clear indication to me that Grady Dick's going to be back today with a minutes cap, returning from a calf injury that's cost him almost 2 weeks.
Yeah, I could also see them going. I know they've treated Boucher not as a center in these circumstances, but if you get Grady Dick back and you're wanting to play all these guys, one of the ways you could do that is shift Boucher's minutes to center, right? And then you still keep space in the rotation for Jacoby Walter or, Jamal Shed or these guys. And we'll note, as you allude to as well, Shed, Walter, and Mobo, who played in that G League game, were not listed on the injury report for out G League. Whereas their other guys are in terms of Jamison Battle, and DJ Carton, so on and so forth. So I think it's pretty clear that those guys are going to be available tonight. Just a question of whether they're actually in the rotation or not. All right, Chicago and San Antonio. Chicago side of things, Lonzo Ball out with left knee injury management. It's the front end of a back-to-back here for the Bulls. Kobe White's out with a left ankle sprain. Patrick Williams out with a left foot issue that he continues to deal with. They're without their G Leaguers, EJ Liddell, Adame Sanogo, and DJ Stewart, and then they've got a questionable tag on Josh Giddey with a right ankle sprain. So Bulls could be pretty thin here on the front end of a back-to-back. Will note that I don't know if the Bulls front office is thinking this way, just naturally, but this is the team that they potentially owe the pick to. in terms of San Antonio if they're unable to finish in the bottom 10 this year. And I'll get to that in a second with what San Antonio is doing on the injury report, because I think their front office might be thinking about this a little bit. But what are your notes on Josh Giddey's potential availability tonight?
Don't have a great read on it. They've been off. I haven't really seen anything. Oh man, somebody's at my front door. Somebody's knocking on my front door right now. Bros, come here, bud. Not a great read on that one. I didn't really see what happened. Did play a ton of minutes. So he should be good. Coming off a triple-double, all that good stuff. And then, as you noted, Kobe White didn't play for the last game. We talked about how the training staff was working on his ankle 2 games ago. Didn't look bad. So a little bit surprised he got ruled out. I would think this is just back-to-back related. Maybe Kobe White's probably going to get Q-tag tomorrow. We'll see. But I expect Julian Phillips, who played okay, obviously coming off a big win, so he should start. Expecting the same starting lineup there. If he didn't play, then Lonzo should also note he's out for management, so he'll be back out there tomorrow. But if he didn't play, what do you think? Do you think they would go to THT, or do you think they would just get Mattis out there to give another option?
Yeah, I think if Giddey is unable to go, I think it's probably Mattis getting the opportunity, and then THT kind of in a lead backup guard role. Like, one of the issues without Kobe potentially and without Giddey and without Lonzo is just that there's like a lack of a team that is built almost entirely on guards starts to have kind of a lack of a ball handler situation. You'd have Zach LaVine and Ayo Dosunmu who are capable in that role. And then you look at the rest of the roster and there's nothing. So, Dalen Terry, a little bit of experience there. Javon Carter, a little bit of experience, but he's pretty buried in the rotation. So I think THT is the backup guard. And so I think you basically have it as Ayo the point guard, Zach LaVine the 2, Julian Phillips the 3, Matas Buzelis the 4, and then Vooch the 5. I think that's the way you'd probably end up seeing the Bulls line up in this one.
Yep.
Okay. San Antonio side, I mentioned Victor Wembanyama is listed out with this bilateral low back soreness. I do question the timing of this, just in the sense that San Antonio knows that there's benefits to giving Chicago wins or making it likelier that Chicago could win games. They're also without Trey Jones here. No other injuries on the questionable tag side of things, but I don't think this Wembanyama thing is a long-term issue. Yeah. What are your notes on Wemby?
Yeah, to your point, he got kind of hit in the back late in the game. They checked him out, and they said he was fine. I was surprised to see him get an out tag here. Maybe it was back-to-back. They do play tomorrow. So, like I said, we're good. Unless we hear something different from the coaching staff today, like, we're going to put Wemby in projections tomorrow. So, yeah, the question is who starts. It's really between 2 guys. You would think Zach Collins has mostly kept Charles Bassey at base, and they've gone that way in the past. So you would think Zach Collins is going to get the start here with Charles Bassey backing him up. But it's worth noting here, we're introducing a lot of wings. We're getting Jeremy Sohan back. Devin Vassell's playing more minutes. Talk about him in a second. Keldon's still there. They've got Harry B. They want to play Stephen Castle. You got a lot of wings, and you want to play. You're starting to play Vassell more. You're starting to play Sohan more. Sohan played a lot of 4, and maybe they play small ball 5. More teams are playing small, so I wouldn't be shocked if they introduce a little bit of small ball lineup. They wouldn't start that way, to be clear, but just to find some minutes for these guys, I wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of a mixed-in small ball group without Wemby there. That would be in the non-Vooch minutes, just to add that, I would say. So, yeah, and then on top of that, are we at start Vassell season yet? I think that's the next question. There was some comments saying he's almost at 100% health from Mitch Johnson. Obviously, coming off 28 minutes was fantastic in this game against the Suns. We saw him play some late minutes here. They do play tomorrow. I would expect him to play today, sit tomorrow, and maybe that's related to Wemby. Like, hey, play Vassell today, sit him tomorrow, right. Wemby back tomorrow, right? So, so keep an eye on Vassell. Keep an eye on if he's starting. I would expect him to start. If he does, to probably be over Julian Champagnie. We've been saying how he's been keeping that seat warm for him all year. Champagnie's been pretty good, but maybe the Champagnie minutes do come down, and then I don't know. I think there's a chance Jeremy Sohan starts. Has Stephen Castle been too good? Like, he's been playing really, really strong minutes, been armed with a big defensive role. We know Sohan, who was really good in limited minutes here. They did cap him. He's been playing full. Mitch Johnson said before this game that his conditioning has been great. So there's a chance that Sohan comes off the bench. I think that they like that. They've been doing that for years. Vassell's still doing it. They've done it with for a while now. So I still think that they would come off the bench with Sohan, but not confident. Could see a starting lineup change. Like I said, Champagnie at most risk to me, and then Harrison Barnes also at risk.
Couple notes that I'd have there. Champagnie's minutes have seemed really tied to Wembanyama. I think they really like his floor spacing out there with Wembanyama. The rotations are pretty much identical most games until the fourth quarter when they just decide whether they're abandoning Champagnie or not in those situations. And so I think you could see a situation where Champagnie could go to the bench for this game with Vassell there, Wembanyama out tomorrow. Maybe Vassell sits, Champagnie back in the starting lineup, and then maybe when Wemby's back, maybe it's still Champagnie just because you split the usage between Wemby and Vassell in the two units. I could see something like that potentially happen. And then to your note about them potentially playing small, certainly a possibility, but without Trey Jones, without Wembanyama, they still have a pretty clear 9-man if you play the two bigs, Collins and Bassey, fairly full minutes. So yes, could have some of that, but I don't think we'll see a lot of that because there's really enough room for everybody right now when you take out Trey Jones, when you take out Wembanyama. You return those guys, it's a lot different situation. And so that's going to be the squeeze we're going to see over the next week or two, how San Antonio deals with it. All right, Phoenix and New Orleans. On the Phoenix side of things, no Yusuf Nurkic still, no Kevin Durant with a left ankle sprain. That's going to be a week or two. And then Ryan Dunn is questionable with left ankle soreness. So what are your expectations on what we see from the Suns, who are without two of their normal starters?
Yeah, late ad for Ryan Dunn. He got added this morning, depending on what time zone you're in. So that's something to keep an eye on. He's had ankle injuries before. Decent chance he misses. His minutes haven't been pretty strong. We've seen them routinely, even when they were thin, not play him upper 20s. So I kind of think he sits. Couple things. Yeah, Kevin Durant, not going to miss long, the week plus. Some of the reporters, John Gambadoro had mentioned he's going to miss like 2-3 games at top. So it wasn't bad. Like he rolled his ankle. It wasn't like a jump up, land on it kind of thing that happened to Drummond. So I think KD will be out. They're going to be careful though. So yeah, I think it's like a 3 to 4 to 5 game tops for Durant. So he'll be back out there soon, which brings up the question, who starts? You would think, considering he played so much in the last game, that Royce O'Neal starts, but they haven't started Royce O'Neal a bunch in the Kevin Durant-less games. Maybe that changes a little bit now since you've got Bradley Beal in there. So I would still lean Royce O'Neal starts. I don't think they would go big. We've seen Oso get some minutes at the 4. Just to transition there. Oso's been really good, man. Played pretty well in this game. Guarded Wembanyama pretty well. Was really good in the Golden State game. So he's kind of run away with the minutes. Mason Plumlee was also really effective. They were really good in his minutes. So I think that'll cover the center minutes. Probably for 48 now. It's a little bit harder to play small without Kevin Durant. But yeah, Royce will play a bunch. Grayson Allen's minutes will come up significantly as well. Ryan Dunn, if he can go, would be great. If they don't have Dunn, that's going to probably bring Josh Okogie in the mix. And then, got to end. And also Bradley Beal's minutes were pretty solid here, 31. So he's almost back to normal. I don't think they would play him 37 plus consistently, maybe here and there. But the last note here, Devin Booker, this dude owns the Pelicans. In his last 2 games at Smoothie King Center, he has scored 52 points and 52 points, 252 balls last year. So Officer Herb, Devin Booker's out here to defund the police.
Yeah, and we will see Herb Jones return tonight for the Pels. Just so you're aware, I don't know if we're still on Raptors Indy on the box score there. I don't know if you've got a different window you're floating around.
I do.
Yep,
I am. Thank you.
On the Pels side of things, no Jose Alvarado, no Jordan Hawkins, no Antonio Reeves, Daniel Tice, or Zion Williamson. They've got available tags, though, on Brandon Ingram, Herb Jones, and Yves Measy. So Ingram's going to be back. This will be the second game all season we'll have with Ingram, CJ McCollum, and DeJounte Murray. As you noted, we're at the quarter way of the season. We've only had one other game with those 3 available, and that game Zion didn't play, I'm pretty sure. So we have had no games with all 4 of them available. What is your expectation on how the rotation shakes out? And Brandon Ingram, any sort of minutes limit? He's returning from right plantaris tendonitis.
Yeah, he had calf, ankle, plantaris tendonitis, all this stuff. He's banged up. As I noted last week, Herb Jones was quicker to practice than BI was. BI was still missing practice. They called him questionable. I said that was one of the fakest Q tags I've seen all season, and he didn't play. So Herb's been out longer. Herb's injury is more severe, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're pretty even. Obviously, I think they're both probably going to start. I maybe Herb comes off the bench. Maybe they bring and just kind of reintroduce him with Trey Murphy, who's playing a ton. So yeah, either way, Misi also got upgraded from questionable. He'll be in there. I still think they probably bring her off the bench considering he's been off for so long. But yeah, this is getting pretty tight. So we're going to see Javonte Green, Brandon Boston's minutes come really far down. Elfrid Payton's already been cut. What have you done for me lately? Could see Jeremiah Robinson's Earl's minutes really get cut down here overall. And then, as I kind of said on the other side, Mason Plumlee, they're going to start Oso, who's not a big five anyways. That's something to watch. How much small ball do we get behind East Misi, who's played pretty well overall? But yeah, getting the squeeze here. Would expect pretty harsh limits on Herb being out for so long. But he has been practicing for over a week, full practicing. So he could be normal-ish, but expecting, to feel the squeeze there to keep it, keep his minutes off the bench in check. But I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't be surprised if he starts, and maybe they bring B off the bench. I wouldn't be surprised by that either. So, no real strong kicks for me overall. But yeah, definitely nice to see an NBA-looking team. This team has been a disaster defensively, and now they're getting Herb back, DeJounte for on-ball. They should be still bad, but not as bad as they were in the last 3 weeks.
Will note at the beginning of the season, the reference, and again, we have not seen all of the pieces together, but the reference point at the beginning of the season was some remarks that suggested maybe CJ McCollum was the name that would be coming off the bench when they were fully healthy. I agree with you that I just don't think it makes any sense when CJ is one of the few guys that's ramped up to go to that now, but I'm interested to see if that's where we're headed. And ultimately without Zion, it's a different thing too. And Zion's going to be reevaluated in another 2 weeks that we'll, see if we get another reevaluation period at that point. But, I think I would think that it's going to be Herb coming off the bench. I just think there's a ego situation there with a Brandon Ingram type player who's had the contract negotiations, the trade rumors. I don't think you want to mess around with that. So I think Ingram probably comes into a starting role in Herb off the bench, and maybe some quick substitutions to shake up the rotation in whatever way they want to balance out the offensive firepower with the defensive firepower.
Yeah, we're getting the the Shams Charania, the tweets and the ESPN segments all about Brandon Ingram's contract. So definitely interesting to see. And the timing. And he didn't have a bad injury, right? This is a wear and tear kind of a thing. So in a contract year with so much at stake, definitely interesting to see how they kind of play it.
Sacramento and Memphis. On the Sacramento side, out tags to Trey Lyles and Devin Carter. Otherwise, the injury report is clean here. What are your notes on the Kings?
The big note was the rotation change. As I promise I won't screw up the box scouts. I blame the person who rung my doorbell. I'm pretty sure it's my next door neighbor. Hope everything's okay with them. Here we go. So yeah, huge win. We'll talk about the Rockets side in a second. But the headline was no Keon Ellis. He was a DNP-CD. He was not injured, according to Mike Brown. They are going to continue to start Malik Monk, who's been diming it up like crazy. 12 assists. He's been having much higher potential assists, all that good stuff. So yeah, they're going to start that lineup. Isaac Jones has crept up to be a clear rotation piece for them. I mentioned last week that Mike Brown said that, quote, we got a player in Isaac Jones. So he's firmly in there. Kevin Huerter, mostly back to life. We saw him play, even with, DeMar out, he was still playing teens minutes. So he really revived his minutes there. So that's kind of their core 8. Maybe they bring Keon in for some minutes to just have another body to throw at John Morant. So we have 11 minutes or I think 10 minutes on Keon. But yeah, Keon, who was supposed to start, has really lost some steam as they're just leaning into offense. They're trying to play with just all these guys. And they're going to probably ask Keegan to pick up a lot of that matchup. I don't think they want to wear down Fox too much.
Yep, and on the Memphis side, they're still without Gigi Jackson, Zach Edey, and Vince Williams Jr. What are your notes and expectations on this Memphis rotation as they continue to kind of, move along with these deep rotations? They blew this game against Dallas, so maybe that could be the impetus to get a little bit tighter rotations. But we're still stuck at 31 as the ceiling for a lot of the main guys here.
Yeah, I don't think so. And, we're doing minutes projections, and to have Jaren Jackson 3 minutes away from Santi Aldama is just so puzzling. But that's what the math suggests. That's what the minutes have been. They ran even last game. Santi's been on fire. So, yeah, they like this Jalen Wells thing. They keep starting him. They keep saying they like Marcus Smart off the bench from all the messaging. And Marcus Smart says he's committed to doing that and all that good stuff. So, yeah, pretty much where we're at. So don't really have anything to add. Just, Desmond Bane looked like he was going to play, mid-30s, but they subbed him out in the fourth to get him a blow again. So they want to play fast. They're committed to it. They're committed to this high assist, high pace. They're first in transition points in the NBA. And I don't see this going away. We'll see if Brandon Clark's minutes come up to put more defense on Domantas Sabonis. Should also note Zach Edey got sent to the G League for a rehab assignment, so he should be back this weekend as well. So you could see Clark maybe get one last hurrah for heavy minutes before they kind of go back to a three-way split, which also should really cut down Jay Huff overall. But yeah, this is going to be a pretty big deep rotation this is the new Jazz. Last year with the Jazz, we just had to give so many guys so many minutes. And this year we're doing the same. We're just giving these guys, we're not giving anyone like over 30s, just the way they're kind of handling it right now.
All right, last game on the slate to diagnose. It is a preview of the quarterfinal matchup between the Houston Rockets and the Golden State Warriors in a different location, as the quarterfinal matchup will be in Houston. This one's in Golden State tonight. Let's start with the visitors. Injury report: Tari Eason listed out for concussion protocol. He did not get suspended, as Winky noted in chat. Tari, Ime, and Şengün were all fine, but no suspensions. Cam Whitmore still out on G League assignment. Fred VanVleet questionable with a right knee contusion here. So a very deep Houston team, getting a little bit thinner without Tari Eason and with the Q tag on Fred VanVleet. What are your expectations here on the Rockets?
Yeah, Udoka fined $50K. I mean, you knew that was coming with, he said, buy some effing glasses, open your eyes, called out officials by name, Şengün getting ejected, and then also surprised only Tari got $15K. That's kind of nice after it looked like he got into it with a fan after the game. So it looks like they're going to be okay. Tari, as you mentioned, is out. So that is going to kind of squeeze some minutes here. Jabari, man, the minutes have been so consistent. Not having Tari behind him should really keep him pretty secure for minutes in the mid-30s. He'll probably be the main defender for Jonathan Kuminga. Obviously, everything else is pretty much the same. We'll see if Fred VanVleet can play here with the Q tag. If he doesn't play, quite confident that Amen Thompson will start and get a boatload of minutes. And then they would also add more minutes to Reed Shepherd, Aaron Holiday, and those guys. But yeah, not a great read on VanVleet. Been hot and cold, had the huge game against OKC and then couldn't nick anything in this Kings game. But yeah, really tough loss for the Rockets. I hate the ref card. I think that's usually, desperate man's complaining, but they got a pretty bad whistle in this game. There were some really ticky-tack fouls that Udoka talked a little bit about. But yeah, we'll see on Fred VanVleet. Maybe they sit him, right? Maybe they're like, hey, we don't want to show you our Fred VanVleet card. We'll save that for the big game next week. But that doesn't sound serious.
Yeah. Well, the Kings have like 20 plus years of reparations from that Western Conference finals against the Lakers. So I never am upset when the Kings get a good whistle. On the Golden State side of things, Stephen Curry out, bilateral knee injury management, Draymond Green out, left calf tightness, DeAnthony Melton out, left ACL surgery, and then a questionable tag on Andrew Wiggins here with a right ankle impingement is the listing here. Warriors on a 5-game losing streak now. Maybe prepping for the Emirates NBA Cup pursuit here with this injury report. But what are your notes without Steph and with Wiggins questionable? How things could potentially look for Golden State tonight?
Yeah, this is bad. I mean, this offense is one of the worst in the NBA right now, and now you're taking away Steph Curry. I feel pretty good that Steph's just back-to-back. They play tomorrow. Maybe, like I said, they don't want to tip the Steph Curry hand, but they did. Something's up with Steph, right? Like, he hasn't been the same. He hasn't been playing well. They changed his rotations where they went with 3 rotations per half instead of the 2 that he used to like. So, yeah, he's fine. I think this is just a back-to-back management thing overall. I think they are. Let me check one last thing. Yeah, no, they're NBA TV today. Okay, they're not. Yeah, they're national TV tomorrow. So I think this is like hey, we got national TV game. We know you want your ESPN game. So I think that's kind of what's up here. So that question is, who starts? And it's kind of a multi-layer question because Pods was horrible in this game. Had a really bad turnover. Got called out directly out without a not prompted. He just ripped into Pods, saying he has to be a smart player. He said he hopes Pods sees his presser after he basically ripped him for being so inconsistent with poor fouling and turning the ball over and making passes he shouldn't make. So that was interesting. So we'll see if they double down and kind of give Pods another chance. And then, so I think Pod starts. Obviously, Looney has done more than enough. He would have played almost 27 minutes had he not fouled out against Jokic. Yes, matchup for Jokic, but guess what? Needed it here too against Alfred Şengün. So feel very, very confident that Pods, I should say I'm pretty confident Pod starts, very confident Looney starts, very confident Kuminga starts. Steve Kerr said they'd really like him as a forward. That'll be easier to do without Draymond, which is, again, another wink, wink, that I think Draymond's missing multiple games here. This is not a back-to-back thing. Draymond's going to get imaging. As we talked about on the podcast, there's a chance he misses this next NBA Cup game that's going to really hurt their defense overall. So, and then Wiggins, if he didn't play, I feel pretty confident it would be Moses Moody moving in the starting lineup for him. But Wiggins sounds like he's okay overall. Then lastly, who starts for Steph, right? I think it's Buddy. You just need somebody to get some shot making. You very badly need some spacing here. You don't have, you don't have spacing with Kuminga. Pods isn't shooting great this year. Wiggins not a volume shooter either. Like, you need spacing. And so that's Buddy Hield's music. I'm pretty sure you'd agree. And then, the other note too is one last thing. They cut out Lindy. That's probably not happening today without Steph. And they cut out Pat Spencer. We mentioned last time that Stephen Curry had a comment about it. Kerr seems like he's finally done with this 12-man rotation. Famous last word for sure. But it looks like this rotation is tightening. It will be looser today because of no Steph. But to you, thoughts on Buddy Hield starting, and then go ahead.
Yeah, I actually I don't think he's going to start. I think it's going to be Moses Moody. One of the issues that they have with Kuminga in the starting lineup is if you start Hield and Kuminga together, who the heck is going to try to score in the second unit? Trey Jackson-Davis? I mean, there's there's really nothing. So I think Buddy Hield is like an because of the way that they run their offense, he can be like an offense unto himself because all the focal point is around finding Buddy Hield navigating screens. And I think they might keep that in the second unit to just separate him from Kuminga a little bit. I think Hield will close, but I think they might keep that just to kind of keep the two potential usage hubs a little bit more separated. And like Wiggins, Kuminga, Hield all together in the starting lineup is like all of the usage on this team in terms of like where they could potentially generate shots. And Trey Jackson-Davis can use possessions, but he's not a shot creator himself. He needs shots created for him by movement, and movement is Buddy Hield. So I kind of think it's Moses Moody who gets the start here, or they do the Gary Payton starting thing, and play him like 14 minutes or something like that. But I think Hield is going to play starters-esque minutes. I just think they're going to try to separate him and Kuminga a bunch. So all your moans and groans, you can blame Jonathan Kuminga for this. That's the reason I think. I think if Kuminga was off the bench, I think they would start Hield for sure, because I just think you want to split up the usage between these two guys.
Yeah, man, that. I may have to. I hit this yesterday at -1.5 Houston. I might have to hit it again at 3.5. Like that just sounds like a disaster for like the defense. It's top 3 in the NBA. So, apparently go Rockets. They've been my moneymaker all year.
It's going to be a disaster at some point. Like if you start Buddy Hield, unless you're playing these guys look, I do not think Steve Kerr on the front end of a back-to-back is playing these guys 35 plus minutes for their main starters. And so unless you're playing those guys like 35 plus minutes, even if you start Hield, it's going to be a disaster when you get to the second unit. And if you don't start Hield, it could be like they're just short offensive options. But yeah, to hear more about our thoughts on Houston and Golden State, you can check out episode 242. I think it was 242. I'm trying to look back of the podcast. It's up on the YouTube feed now, titled Emirates NBA Cup Bracket is Filled. So check out that video after we're done here, which will be in just a few seconds. As always, if you're interested in supporting our free content, the best way to do so is to support the videos on this channel. And by supporting this channel as a whole, subscribe to this YouTube channel. You can hit the bell and get notifications whenever new content is posted. As I alluded to, you can check out that latest podcast episode, which is in video form. If you're interested in the premium content, establishedrun.com/subscribe-NBA for more information on our premium product offerings on the prop side of things, on the DFS side of things. Very proud of the work that we're putting out over there. And if you want to, again, support this free content, the best way to do so is to smash that like button and help feed that algorithm. You feed the algorithm, it helps feed our families, and allows us to feed you the NBA injury information analysis each and every day, so you can set your DFS lineups, your season-long lineups, and make your spread bets and your prop bets. So smash that like button, feed that algorithm. Nom, 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 nom. We'll see you tomorrow.